Okay.
Welcome.
Wait.
Okay.
Says setting it up.
No, it's live.
Okay, go ahead.
Welcome to SestraNow's Workshop Wednesdays. Tonight, we have Allison Watley. She's going to be presenting for SestraNow's 1000 Women Campaign Debt Reduction Team. Allison Watley is a mental health practitioner, an accountant, and business owner and entrepreneur. She's going to present tonight on Say Bye-Bye to Debt. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Allison Watley to you, and I ask everyone to please save your questions until the end of her presentation. And we do have a time set for answering all of your questions. So thank you. And Allison, we're looking forward to hear everything you have to say about getting rid of this debt.
Yes, welcome, Allison.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's such a privilege to be with you guys. You're doing an awesome job. Thank you, Stephanie, for inviting me initially into the group and for adding me as a part of SestraNow. I feel like I have real sister girlfriends. And so tonight we're going to be talking about debt, and I know each one of us probably have some debt or the other, right? And I have lived this and I'm living this. So this is going to be a little more personal, more than, professional in a sense, right? We're going to get some practical ways of how we can reduce our debt. And this is how I have approached my debt. Okay. Allow me to share my screen with you. Okay. All right. Can we all see that? All right. Oops.
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, we see
Okay.
it.
So say bye-bye to debt. And listen, we all have a debt, as we said. And I particularly put that man in there because he's drowning, because we women, we tend to be a little bit better with our money, right? So I wanted to put him in there. Most of the time, the women are the ones who kind of steer the finances of the home. And I want to encourage us as women, as sisters, to continue to do so, because we do a fantastic job. I know most of you are holding down your families. You have a lot of things going on. And so debt is something that sort of even crept up. I know for me, it sort of crept into my space because I wanted to do so much extra with more than the money I was making. All right. So it's inevitable in a sense. And there is something called good debt and there's something called bad debt. So we're going to talk about both, and we're going to talk about how to eliminate the bad debt particularly. What is a debt? A debt is something, typically money, right, that you owe, and that is owed or that is due. Right? So you can have a debt that you borrowed some money from Nana, that's a debt, all right? You borrowed some money from your sister girl, your sister friend, somebody, and it's still a debt. Once you owe that money, it is a debt, all right? So where do we begin when we're thinking about reducing that debt? First of all, you got to know what it is you owe, right? You got to know how much you owe, and you got to understand where to tap in and how to tap into those things that you owe, right? So you want to write down every single thing that you owe, everything, every possible thing. A lot of us are, for me particularly, and I'll speak a lot about me, a lot of us are in what we call, student loan debt. You know, if you did any form of tertiary education, you have some form of student loan that is lingering and is over your head and you exhausted by it, or credit card debt, which is, those were the two major areas of my life that I had to sort of take a real sharp look at and, for me to reduce it so that I could have some kind of a life. Okay. And the reason why we want to reduce that is really that we would be able to live a sustainable life. We'll be able to live a life beneath, or, where we are not drowning like the man in the first slide, but we are surviving. We are thriving, actually. If you're working a 9 to 5, which most of us are doing, we want to be able to enjoy that life. If you have a business, you want to enjoy the rewards of that business. So you want to reduce your income, not your income rather, I'm sorry. You want to reduce your expenses, which is essentially the debt that you have, so that your income will sustain you. Where do I begin? It is important to first identify your debt. Like I said before, write everything down, including that money you borrowed from somebody that you probably have no intentions of giving back, probably thinking, I hope they forget it. But it is still a debt, because that also takes an effect. If you have to consider buying something like a home, your debt income ratio, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that very briefly. But so you want to begin with a budget. Not the little paper budget that we do when we want to go to the grocery store and we write the milk, the sugar, the everything down, and we said that's our grocery list. We want to make a budget. Creating a budget, and budget is not a four-letter word. It's not a bad word, right? We want to live in such a way that you are approaching this with some sense, with some practicality. So you want to know exactly what it is you are expensing out. We all know our income, right? Our income is easy to assess, because for the most part, we have a 9-to-5, and that 9-to-5 is giving us either, a monthly income, a bi-weekly income. So what really is on your budget that makes a lot of sense is your expenses, the things that you are paying out. And when you really truly sit down and do your budget, you would realize how much you are spending, maybe sometimes unnecessarily. Again, I can only talk for myself. Even if I'm pointing fingers at you, 4 of these fingers are pointing back at me. And I had to get to that realization that my money was not necessarily funny, but my spending habits were. It was really atrocious. So I had to revamp my whole, and I had to write every single thing down, from the coffee card that we buy, the monthly supply of whatever hosiery, whatever it is, it's part of your budget. All of your expenses should be on your budget. So this is a little bit of an example of what a budget spreadsheet could be. You may not be an accountant per se, you may not be anybody who is into finances, but you do have pen and paper, right? You may not know how to use Excel or slideshows, whatever it is, but you do have pen and paper. And in making this budget, I particularly like to know at the side of the budget, as this one says, the date these items are due. Right. And if you look at the budget, and it's a little bit vague, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but there are things like socializing, eBay, gas, electric, your utilities, your food shopping, pet and food treats. I don't have a pet, but there are several Americans who have pets. Birthday gift fund, yes. Loan, rental fund, emergency fund. And the reason why you want to itemize every single thing, because you want to know where your money is going and where you can possibly save some of that money to attack your debt, right? Think about if you have 3 or 4 credit cards and all of them are varying in interest rates, right? So you may have one with a 25, those store cards, a 25% interest. You may have one at a 6% interest. You may have one, and you're paying the minimal balance on all of these cards every month, and it doesn't seem as though it's going anywhere. And literally that's what it is. It goes nowhere when we approach it like that. So it's important for you to know how much money you're actually expending out. And so you might be able to cut out something and put it towards more money towards a particular card. And we're going to get there. For instance, if you look at this, there is a TV license, there is a water bill, there is also Netflix, there's also website hosting. I don't know what this person is doing, but they have so many different things that they could probably pool some things and lessen some of their expenses. All right, so budgeting is essential. Whether you have debt or not, or you may have one credit card that you're doing a fantastic job of maintaining, you're paying the balance even before the due date, you still want to be able to know where your money is going, right? You want to be the manager of your money and not the money managing you. You don't want to live, you don't want to, just work to live. You want to live while you're working, right? Let the money work for you. So listen, we got to bust a move, make a move, own it, right? Own it. Pay off the most expensive debt first. This is one approach, right? One approach is to pay off the most expensive debt first. And how would you only know which is the most expensive debt? When you have itemized, when you have seen, and you have to know some of us have credit cards, and I don't even think we've read the fine print about the interest rates. We have not read the fine prints about what it is, how it changes or after a time. We just think that, okay, well, I got a credit card, they give me $5,000, and then they increase my credit line till next week, and we're feeling really great about that, and that's good. But what they're doing essentially is putting you in more debt, right? Because the more money we have to our exposure is the more money we tend to want to spend without knowing where that money is actually going. So the tip on the side says, sort your credit card interest rates, is blocked off a little bit, excuse me. Sort your credit card interest rates from highest to lowest, right? So the ones with most store credit, those Macy's cards, I don't know if people have those anymore, but if you do, that's fine. Those cards that they give you, like they just tell you when you get to the counter with all that you have to purchase, if you take this card today, you get a 25% discount immediately. And we grab those cards because we want a discount, because we want the stuff that's in our hands, right? And so those cards are typically very high interest rate cards. They are 25 to 28% interest rates, and they take forever to pay off. So, sort them from the highest to the lowest. That's how I did mine. Then tackle the card with the highest rate first, right? Some people do it the other way around. They do the one with the lowest interest rates or the less amount of money first, right? But we're going to talk about that even further. All right. So sometimes you're not in a position to, you have like I said, you probably have 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, which, listen, I'll be very transparent. I had 4 major cards at one point, one of which I was using particularly for my schooling. And I didn't even understand or know when that thing went to the extreme of extremes. So it was a rude awakening for me when I realized, oh my goodness, it's not that I'm not making a lot of money, I'm not, but the fact is I am spending a lot of money, and I'm giving, and it was like never decreasing because I was paying barely above the minimum, right? Because I had so many cards. So one option to reduce your debt would be to consolidate those loans, to consolidate that debt, right? And the benefit of that is you get, of course, your interest is saving on the interest. Just bear in mind, however, that your debt amount does not reduce when you consolidate. It is the same amount you owe. So if you owe $20,000, it's still going to be $20,000 when you consolidate. It really is advisable, though, that if you have that amount of debt, it's not wise to consolidate, because the time frame of which you're going to be paying back just is too much. You're going to be in almost like a mortgage for 30 years. So if you have $20,000 in debt with a credit card company, your approach would probably be to approach, the one we talked about earlier, where you attack the credit card with the lowest interest rate. But consolidation is for like 10,000. If you are 10,000 in debt, and you have 2 or 3 different cards or different loans, you might want to get a personal loan to consolidate and pay, where you would be paying 1 payment per month, and that's the advantage. And usually the lower payment of the month. So you have, let's just say you have $500 that you're splitting between 4 credit cards. If you consolidate all of them, you may potentially be paying $250. So that you're able now to take the other $250, either to put more on that particular card, so you're reducing the debt, or you can have a savings now, because a lot of us who are in debt don't have savings. We particularly don't have savings, if you're going to be honest, right? If you have a savings and have so much, and you have a lot of debt, well, kudos to you. I want to be taught by you. So it typically saves you on the interest, it lowers your monthly plan, and it improves your credit score. How does that happen? If the more you pay on a credit card is the more your credit score is not affected in a negative way. So if you're just paying the minimal balance every month, yes, you're paying the minimal balance, but that is not improving your credit score. It's not helping your credit score. All those cards that are open is also really potentially affecting your credit score, right? There are debt consolidating companies out there who would tell you, if you give me upfront $500 or $700, some of them charge as much as $1,000, they would help you consolidate and they will help you get rid of your debt. My advice would not be to go that direction, because if you were to personally call the credit card companies, they may even consider either lowering your interest rate, or they themselves may consider, one of those cards might consider taking on all the other cards, right? Using those companies, it kind of potentially puts you in a negative spin, because you have to pay them, and then you have to pay them a portion even of what they settle for, which is usually, say I have $20,000 owing, they may settle for $10,000, but I'm paying more than that. So they're benefiting much more than I am. So consider calling your credit card first. Consider calling or taking out a personal loan with your bank, rather than going the route of getting into one of those consolidating companies. Okay, so that's one approach to consolidate. The pros and cons of debt consolidation. Debt consolidation has both benefits, of course, and drawbacks to consider before you make a final decision. You always want to have research. You always want to check on every single thing as much as you can before you make a final decision. Do not allow anyone to pressure you into making a decision that is going to be beneficial to them. Of course, it's easier to manage your expenses by combining multiple. That way, you know exactly this $500 a month is going this way, and not splitting up 5 or 6 different ways. Is a possible lower interest rate, because a lot of times when you do consolidation, it becomes one loan, and therefore, based on the finance department that you may use, they may give you a lower interest rate, and you could always haggle. You could always, and this is a great time. This is a great time because so many people have defaulted on their payments. So a lot of companies, a lot of, credit card companies or loan companies are looking for you to settle. So they're working with you. They're working with you in order to reduce that monthly payment, reduce that interest rate. They're really interested in working with you. So this is a great time to call your company and say, listen, this is too much for me. I would like to consider either consolidating or reducing my interest rate, right? If you don't want to consolidate, call them and ask for a reduction in that interest rate. At that point, you probably want to freeze that card, not cancel it. Because if you cancel the card or you cancel you just want to freeze it so that you're not using it, right? You're freezing it, not using it. You don't want to cancel. Cancellation of cards, usually we don't understand, but if you cut up a card or canceling the account, you can cut your card up and not cancel the account or close the account. There is a negative impact on your credit score when you cancel or close out these accounts. The pros, you can lower your overall, like I said, monthly debt payment, right? Instead of that $500 that's coming out of your pocket every month, you could probably be paying a $250, $300 and living a little, breathing more. The cons of consolidation, of course, there's always there are always pros and cons, and you need to be the person weighing that. How important is this to me? All right, and that's why you have to do your budget. You want to know what is beneficial to you. Right? The cons may not qualify for interest rate that's lower than your existing balances, because if we have a high debt income ratio, a high income debt ratio, we may not qualify for that lower interest rate. And that's why it's so important to pay more than you usually pay, and not, I know some of us aren't in the position to do that, but that's how, the interest rates are based on your debt income ratio. They lend you based on what they think you're worth, essentially. You may lengthen the repayment terms. So like I said, if you have a $20,000, $10,000 on one card, $5,000 on another, you know, and you consolidate, that becomes a $15,000, that or even higher. When you go to consolidate that and it becomes one, that's like $15,000. Now the company will stretch the payment out. They'll stretch the plan out. And so you might be covering that loan, though it's a lower interest rate, for a longer time span. So at the end of it all, you are still going to be ended up paying more than you probably would even if you were not to consolidate, right? Some loans require you to put your home up as collateral. Never, ever get into any loan to pay back credit card or debt by putting your home at risk as any collateral, because what you're essentially doing is giving them your home. If you default in any way, they have all rights, right? Don't get into a loan that is even asking you for any collateral of that magnitude. The loan itself should be collateral. The fact that you can pay the loan back is the collateral, right? So don't ever put yourself by adding your car, nothing of any asset to that existing, like if you want to consolidate, right? There are companies don't require any of that. Mainly a credit card company would not require because they already have a history with you, right? So that's the first line of defense. Alternatives to debt consolidation, right? There are two payback methods, and we kind of hinted at that before. There are two payback methods where you're paying back the loans and not consolidating them. So you have 5 and you're going to keep all 5 open and active and pay them back. So what you'll do, there's one method which is called the highest interest rate first. You're paying off the credit card with the highest interest rate. So important to know which one is that, right? It may not have the highest balance, but it would have the highest interest rate. So you're not looking at the balance, you're looking at the interest rate, right? And the reason for that is if I am paying a 25% interest rate on a card, my potential to pay that back is greater, even though the balance on that card is smaller, right? You may end up paying more on that card because of the interest rate. So you want to attack that with the highest interest rate will save you money in the long run. Especially if the highest interest rate credit card also happens to be the card with the highest balance. Now you double whammy, you're winning on both sides. And most times that is the case. Your highest card with the interest rate will tend to have the most high, because that would be one of the cards they potentially will give you the highest spending ability, right? If you check in your mail, sometimes those Macy's, listen, I remember I was younger, much younger, and Macy's kept raising my you know, my limit, my spending limit, and I was ecstatic. I was just enjoying the life because I thought I was the best thing ever, not understanding what was happening to me. So I had to get rid of that. That was my first card that I had to just get rid of. I don't even know if Macy's give you that kind of lux shopping as they used to anyway. It's not that attractive, at least not to me. When the highest interest rate card also happens to be the highest balance, it will take the longest to pay off, right? So you want to do that one first because that will be the one that will take the longest. And there is a method. If I'm paying off a credit card with the highest interest rate, what would happen is my other cards, I will just basically put a limit, a little over the limit, right? And the
minimum
card, the minimum, thank you. And the highest, thank you so much. And the one with that I'm paying off, I would put more money there. Again, this is why your budget is so important, because you might be able for a month or 2 months or 3 months to cut out the coffee and say, this is what I'm going to use this money to do. I'm going to shave off money off of my coffee bill or whatever expense that I have that I could probably do without. And I would put that extra money towards this payment so that I can cut this down. All right. In the long run, it is beneficial because at the end, you're going to be breathing a lot more easier. It's easy to lose motivation paying off your debt when it takes too long, right? So that's why this other method, the lowest balance first, is somewhat of a motivation. All right, and the lowest balance first, you're looking at that card that has the lowest balance. So you may owe like a $500 on a card, and it's there and you're paying minimum amount because you think, okay, I don't have that much on there, right? No, you want to pay that off, even if you can take a $500 and just pay the minimum on the other cards and take that and wipe that debt out. That's $500 you just took off of your spending, right? There are immediate tangible benefits to paying off the credit card with the lowest balance, not the interest rate right now, the balance. This is one of the methods I used for another card, yes, girl, I had a lot. The first balance is easier and quicker to pay off. And so when I paid that off, I was like, woo! So it gave me an incentive to really, my adrenaline, I was like, yes, I paid something off. I was so ecstatic that I was working towards paying off. It's somewhat like a reward system. So I felt rewarded for my good deed. So it encouraged me to do more and pay another one off, right? So the first balances are easy and quicker to pay off. And when you finally pay off a bill, the feeling of that accomplishment is motivation to keep you going. I don't know about you, but I am motivated when I see a little extra money in my income that I could probably spread somewhere else that is really, really needed. Oh no, we holding questions. All right, tip, paying off your balances based on interest rate is known as the debt avalanche, right? And paying off starting with the lowest balance is called the snowball effect. A lot of people will consider, most people do the snowball effect, which is the lowest balance first. All right, moving on. I hope you're gaining something from this. Now, an extreme, and I do mean extreme cases, because sometimes our debt is so much bigger than what we even have income for. The extreme cases would be to withdraw some monies from your retirement, all right, if you do have, and just fund that out and pay it out. You can also take a cash out of your life insurance policy. Again, these are just options that are there in extremes, or you can settle a debt settlement. There are debt settlement companies, like I said before. Sometimes they are beneficial, sometimes they aren't. If you are in collection with a debt, this is the time to do a debt settlement. And what that essentially looks like, call that debt company directly. Don't go through the credit card, because they already put you in debt collection with a collection agency. Now, the collection agency, their role is to actually get as much as they can from you. However, they have already bought that loan. They've already paid them a percentage. They have already made some sort of transaction with, say I owe Sally Mae, right? And which I do. I owe Sally Mae $10,000, right? And I defaulted on my payments, and Sally Mae sent me to a credit card, a debt collection agency. What happened when that debt collection agency received my loan? Sally Mae would have received monies from that debt collection agency already. So the debt collection agency bought my loan, and now they are going to collect for themselves. And they usually buy between a 40 to 60%, because Sally Mae at this point is getting no money from me. So they might as well just take what the debt collection. And now the debt collection hounds you and calls us 24/7 to get back their money, and sometimes interest, right, on their loan. However, if you go to the debt collection, there is a threshold. It's not really known, but there is a threshold. If they paid $40,000, they're willing to settle for you for about 50. I mean, if they paid 40%, they're willing to settle for about 50, because then they gain something, right? So it's always good to ask them, how can I settle? And there are options of settlement. There are options where they would probably say, well, if you can pay in 3 payments, this, that, and that, I would reduce your loan to X, Y, and Z. Always negotiate. Don't ever just swallow whatever they give you. Always negotiate. We have lawyers on here. You all know how to negotiate. Always go fighting, because what they want is to get at least what they paid for that loan. All right. Always, always, always negotiate. This is a good time. All right. So in a nutshell, we pay our bills on time to avoid getting even anywhere near where you're going to be in collection. One of the things you need to do, pay your bills on time, avoid fees, avoid the fees. So if you have a credit card with a high interest rate and you just happen to love that card because it's for one of your favorite stores, or it is whatever, for whatever reason, when you pay, they give you 30 days, 28 to 30 days of which to pay that balance. I would say don't spend more than you know you can pay on that month. So if you spend $100 or $150, pay that off before the bill is due, right? That helps to not incur debt, okay? Ask your creditors, like I said, up front for a lower interest rate. And of course, increase your income. Listen, I am a business owner, and there is no way of, if you're doing it, kudos to you again. And maybe you need to teach me what you're doing. If you're living on one income, oh my goodness, well, God bless you. It's very difficult in this economy, in this time, to live on one income, far less to reduce debt. So increase your income. Ways of increasing your income, of course, on a regular 9 to 5, unless they give you a raise, it's not going to happen. Pull out that business plan, that thing, that idea that's in your head. The only how we can survive and get out of debt is to own your own business. Owning your own business always puts you in another bracket. Listen, people like Warren Buffett, who is one of the richest men, says that you cannot survive on a 9 to 5, and you would never get rich on a 9 to 5. We are essentially making money for them. We are making their business, their dream come alive, right? And of course, we need our 9 to 5. I would not give up my 9 to 5 unless my foot is solid on the ground. I would never, However, I understand that it's not my ultimate. It cannot be. And we give the 9 to 5 so much of who we are that we could take that main resources, which is us, and put that into getting some sort of business off the ground. There's so many things, so many options. You make a good cake, and you may say it's saturated. McDonald's is right next to Wendy's, is right next to, what's the other one? Burger King. They're all in the same way, and they all have a clientele. So in considering, and this is just a bonus, right? Considering going and earning other income, don't ever think that the market is saturated, because essentially who you're selling is yourself. So market you. Become your best, the best at whatever it is you do, and you're going to get that clientele. Look for ways to cut your expenses. If you don't know, you feel like, okay, I am not an entrepreneur, I can't do this, I can't do business because it requires too much, I really do need this 9 to 5, I have to maintain my 9 to 5. Look at ways at cutting your expenses. Go back to that budget. Your budget should always be something that is in front of you. You should always be looking at it on a monthly basis, at least. And you should be looking at ways you can cut that off, shave that off. All right. I used to buy, not Starbucks a lot, but I would, every month I would do a Dunkin' Donuts card because I have a Dunkin' Donuts. And that whole incentive of getting a free coffee when you get to that 200 really got me going, because I was putting money on that card, not thinking, because I wanted the free coffee. So, my Dunkin', when I looked at it, I was like, okay, I'm spending $40-50 a month, on Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm not this big coffee to buy. Why? You have a coffee maker at home, you're buying coffee in the grocery store, and you're still not brewing your coffee. So I decided Dunkin' Donuts had to go. that $50 that I was pulling out, I said, I'm gonna make my coffee. It wasn't the best at home, but it, you know, I developed a palate for it eventually. And you know, that, and that's just one little example. There's some things that we can really do without for a little while, for a little season. Most of us weren't going anywhere when COVID happened. So you realize that you didn't have to do your nail. Some of us became our own nail technicians, right? And our own makeup artists. Look at TK saying
Yes.
yes. Some of us became our own makeup artists. So push that in further. You know how much people spend at a hairdresser every week, not a month, every week. You're spending at least 40, 50, a natural hair, forget about it. I cannot go to the natural hair salon because it is too expensive. So I had to learn. I'm still learning. I do not do a great job, but I'm not giving them $80 to sit in their chair to make my hair look anyway a little better than it's looking now. If I have a special occasion, okay, fine. So cutting out those things that were just luxurious, right? You didn't have to do it. You don't have to buy that. You don't have to buy that pair of shoes because you have 99 other pairs in your closet that you can recycle. We had an excellent with the fashion, right? And she taught us about our basic colors that we can have, and we mix and match right here on this Zoom, and we can mix and match and have so many outfits and not buy several, right? So cut out some of those expenses. And listen, if you're trying to reduce your debt, stop creating debt. So stop taking the credit card, stop spending on the card, put a freeze on that card, hide it, cut it, do something about it. Don't close the account. Don't call them and say, I want to close my account. No, cut the card if you think you don't have that willpower. Get an accountability person. Say, Annette, hold my card for me and don't give it to me under no circumstances. I don't need it. Because if you're trying to reduce your debt and you're creating more, you're just operating like if you're in quicksand. You know, quicksand works, right? It just sucks you down. You're fighting to go up and you're fighting to go up and you're sinking still, right? And that's what you're going to be doing if you still keep making or creating debt, right? So that's the biggest thing. If you forget everything else, remember about your budget and remember about stop creating a debt. Stop creating debt if you want to get rid of it.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Allison. Could you stop share so we can have we can ask some questions now?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we
You
can
didn't
see-
finish the last slide. Okay.
This is my last one. This is what.
Oh, sorry.
And these are three gurus. I particularly follow Susan Oman a lot. She has this book called 9 Steps to Financial Freedom. Excellent read, excellent book to have in your and then Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's Robert Kiyosaki, I think is how he says it. You know, he is an excellent, he says, it's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you and how many generations you keep it for. So we have to build generational wealth.
Yes.
And that's why we need to reduce the debt, not just spending because you have it. And he says to act your age, as Dave Ramsey, act your wage rather. So spend what you have, act your wage. I love it. All right. So yes, at this point, we will stop share and have any, how do I do this?
Just
Okay.
press stop. Oh, Q&A. Thank you. Good luck. Love it. Love it. Love it. So you just press stop share on the top.
Oh, where do I go? I'm not
On the
seeing
top
it.
where it's green. It's like where the green thing is.
Oh, it's down below here. Thank
Oh,
you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Allison. Woo, that was amazing. I was taking notes. I have questions. But
Oh
who
my
wants to
God.
go first?
Well, there's some questions in the chat.
Mhm.
Well, I was told, there was somebody else who was part of the debt reduction team, and she said that she does presentations about the snowball way. She said that it really works for her. So can you just tell us a little bit more? I know you promoted the other way around, but can you tell us a little bit more about how the snowball one works?
The snowball essentially is attacking the one that is with your lowest balance. So you may have 4 or 3, 4, how many ever credit cards. You want to make sure that you look at the one with the lowest balance, because that way you immediately attack that loan, you get rid of it. And that extra money that you get, once you get rid of it, you put it towards the others. So while you're doing the snowball, you want to put maximum money on the lowest balance. So let's just say you have $500 to pay off debt for the month. You want to put the most money and pay the minimum balance, the minimum amount due on the other cards or the loans or whatever debt you have. And you want to put as much money as you can on the lowest interest. So that way you get rid of it really quickly. Once you get rid of that, don't think that, oh my God, now I have extra money to spend. No, you take that money that you now have extra and put it to the next one with the lower interest rate. And as you continue to do that, what you're doing is cutting down your debt, but getting the incentive and also getting more money at the end. So you're paying it off a little faster is what happens typically.
Thank you.
Do you want to read the questions in the chat, Annette, or you want me to?
Can I just ask a quick follow-up
Sure.
on that question?
Sure.
So like, what are the pros and cons to doing it either way? Like the way you said, with the highest interest rate versus the lowest balance in snowball, like Avalanche versus snowball.
So Avalanche, for me, it worked for one particular card that I had because it was really the card that I was exhausting a lot. It did not have the highest balance, but it had the highest interest rate. So I was paying a lot more on that card. My minimum balance payment was more than most cards. So I felt like, I paid. So if that is the case, and so your minimum balance is like $200, I'm just using rare numbers, right? Your minimum balance is $200 for a card. And it may not necessarily have the lowest interest rate, but you're paying a lot on there. You might want to cut that one out first. You might want to attack that. And that is what I did for me personally, because I needed to get that and get my mind wrapped around, this whole thing about the debt that I was in. So for me, it just created an incentive. I use both now. In terms of the snowball, I fell back into the snowball because like I said, it was that particular card that I just needed to get rid of because I was using it. I was creating debt on it while I was trying to pay for it. If I were to be honest, right? And so I needed to get rid of that, and it was like a plague. It was one of those cards that you use for shopping, clothes.
Yeah.
So, hope I answered your question.
Okay, so Annette, you want to read the comments, or you want me to, the chat?
Yeah, I could do that if you
Go
want.
ahead.
I'm so into what you're saying that I have to.
I have some questions. I have some conspiracy theories to talk about.
Oh my God.
What? Okay. So here it says, there was some comments like, some credit card companies are willing to lower your rate if you have been consistent with payments. Carol Faulkner said that. And this is a hypothetical situation. If you have credit card debts of $5,000 and say $15,000 in your emergency fund, would you suggest that you pay off your cards in full? Yeah, that was another question I had too. What do you think about saving? Like, should we be saving money when we could put the money towards debt? So, so did you get the question? I mean, I said, I added that on. Okay.
I think I do. I would say you wanna have some sort of savings, but if you do have, some people save specifically to reduce their debt. So they may have, like, they would go into SUSU or partners. We all Caribbean and we know what that is. So you may go into some sort of savings plan and say, this is particularly to pay that debt off in full, right? If you have a $15,000 savings, I would say for me personally, and that will be a personal choice that you should make. Me personally, I would take part of that and pay off my $5,000 debt. Because at the end of the day, my income is going to be more and I could put more towards saving. And then I would be paying off a debt, reducing the interest of which I'm paying. That $5,000 is not what I would eventually pay. I would probably pay more than that based on the interest rate.
The interest rate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember why Tika answered that's a whole sermon, but it was so funny. Do you remember what the comment that Allison said?
She was saying you've got to get, like your 9 to 5 is not going to give you the financial freedom. You've got to own your own.
Yes, have multiple streams of income.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Someone said, how many loaves of bread are in the bread aisle? When you, I guess,
right.
to the point when you said, you can't think, oh, there's too many people. The market is saturated. Right. And someone says, amen, own your own business. That's why we have been preaching. That's what we've been preaching to our kids. Thank God they saw the value in it. And that's another thing too, like, teaching our children, especially when they're from the jump, when they first start getting their jobs, or even when they get little allowances, training them to save and put, how to manage their own money, so we could break some of these generational curses.
Yes. Oh my God. It is written. It's the truth. It is a generational curse, because I'll be honest. I did not grow up excessively poor. I didn't know that we were poor. First of all, I didn't. So when I was first approached with a credit card, I felt like this was the way to go. And that initial card was an unsecured card that they gave you almost like coming out of high school, right? Or college or whatever. And I just went bananas, because I was like, oh my God, I can have extra money. You felt like you have extra money and that you didn't owe this money, Yes. Understanding how money works is key for us to teach our children.
Yeah.
So that money will work for us and not the other way around.
Absolutely. Here we have how many car brands, stores in the mall, water bottle companies. Hello.
That was me. Don't mind me.
and a comment, your hair looks beautiful, Allison. So you don't have to waste money in the salon.
Yeah, I love your hair.
And Stephanie said she gives her card to her husband and beg for it back for the sob story.
Yeah. Or I go look for it in his nightstand. I'm like, where did he hide this thing at? Where is he hiding this?
Okay, here's another question. How does negotiating with a debt collector impact your credit? Does the debt remain on your credit?
No, that's another thing. You once you pay a debt, you want to call your and tell them that this debt is paid in full. You want that debt collecting agency to send you something that states paid in full, not anything else but that. Because once they put paid in full, that comes off of your credit report. And you want to look at your credit report. Don't be afraid to look at your credit report. And if you need a credit, somebody who helps you to repair credit, that's also really a good, person to have in your armor kind of thing. But you want to know what's on there. You really do want to know what's on there, because some minor things do affect your credit score, not knowing. And a lot of us, we were told initially, I remember hearing that if you check your credit score too much, it's going to reduce it and all of that. That's not true. That's not true.
Before we wrap up, I have 3 points that I would like to make, questions for Allison, and it's more warnings because we are a sisterhood and because I have such experience with debt. I want to share what not to do. Okay. One of the things that, I know not just myself, my mom has done, or other, family members or friends have done, is they file bankruptcy. What do you have to say about that? Like, you get these, you have these attorneys that's what they do. They market that to you. And right now it's really big, where you get people that say, oh, are you in debt? And they're predators. Right? They're looking for you. They want you to, we'll help you. We'll negotiate your debt. But to me, it appears as if this really ruins you. So
Yes.
what do you have to say when someone is approached about filing bankruptcy to clear out their debt, and then within 2 or 3 years your credit score will be much better? What do you suggest?
No, I would say pay your credit cards. Don't file in bankruptcy, kind of sets you back, because if you're looking to buy or purchase bigger things in the future, that is something that's almost if you go to jail, if you go to prison, it's a part of your history, right? So it's a part of your history. So if I knew you filed bankruptcy as a lender, I might put my desire to lend to you would be low. Or if I lent to you, my interest rate for you would be higher, right? So when you're looking to purchase big ticketed items like your home, and that's when those things come into play. Now, those are, listen, some people may have done it, and you can crawl your way back out of. It's a lot of work to get yourself back and to be trustworthy again, because essentially that's what it is you're doing, becoming trustworthy. Am I worthy of being giving some credit? And we all have to have credit. We should never think that we shouldn't have credit. There's good credit and there's bad credit. Anything that is causing you to not live, your type of life that you want to live, that essentially would be a bad credit. But you must have some levels of a credit, right? So wiping out all of that is to your detriment at times. Yes.
I'd like to speak to that. I think that bankruptcy as an option is not necessarily a bad thing, depending
Right.
on your situation.
Right.
There are a lot of people who, if you have a crazy amount of debt, like the debt that we're talking about, usually maybe the 20,000 is nothing. I mean, there's some business owners and stuff like that. It's better for them to liquidate, and so those are some kind of considerations that you should get a professional's recommendations or advice on something like that. But what we're talking about, the average person, the type of debt that we have, that we are dealing with, it's better to try to work it out on your own. And also in the process is changing your habits, growing and getting better, because you can file bankruptcy and find yourself back in the same hole if you don't change your lifestyle.
That's so true.
Absolutely. Great, Annette. And she's absolutely right on that. All of us should look at our lifestyle and change our habits. We really should consider changing the way we view money, and the way money is supposed to work for us, not the other way around. And a lot of us are working tirelessly for money.
So a second point along the lines of predators that I like to warn everyone about and get your opinion on. You spoke about a loan, like you get a company that will lend you money to pay. Either you have a company that will help you consolidate your debt, or you have a company that will lend you money and to pay off your debt, right? Or to handle or to renovate your kitchen or something like that. My experience has been that those companies are predators. One in particular, they have like a front-loaded interest situation similar to a mortgage. And what's so crazy about it is they so easily give you money. I keep going back to them, right? Not anymore. But they'll call you. Hey, Stephanie, how's it going? You need some money? You know what I mean? Especially when you pay them more.
Hey, girl.
Right.
I know her name. Her name is
personally.
Her name is Carol. She's a blind woman. So Carol will call me after I say, okay, that's it. I'll go in, pay her off. And then she calls me back. Hey, it's been a while. I haven't heard from you. How's it going? Yeah, Carol, she'll call me. So anyway, it's the worst kind of loan though. I don't know if everyone is familiar. Maybe you can explain. You have a front-loaded interest. So you're paying back all the interest first before you hit the principal on your loan. And you be paying that thing forever. But it just feels so good. They'll lend you so much money. So your perspective on that?
I would say if you have to consider consolidation and getting somebody to cover your loan, the best thing to do is first either go to the credit card company that you may have one of, that may be willing to extend the amount of money they give you so that you can cover the loan. They will consolidate for you, or your bank. Those third-party companies, I am leery, very, very much so, because of that sort of behavior. Because a lot of times, like I said, they already sort of kind of make their money, right? And so that's how they make their money. It's like the ambulance chaser. They're right there looking for you and just creating further repercussions of, and you're not going to get out of that. It's just going to extend.
Yeah.
Consolidation really should be considered, like Annette said, when you're thinking about doing some of those things, you want to have some professional advice as well. You want to really, really know how this is going to impact you as a person and your household, and read the fine print. We are all intelligent. Read the fine print, don't be so apt to just, oh my God, extra money. I'm getting extra money. They're helping me, because no, they have a job to do.
Yes.
And they're going to do it at the best of their ability.
Yeah. So, our time is up. So I'm just going to read a few more of the comments, and then Stephanie, if you could just close us out.
Sure.
And take it home. Here it says you can, Printa said this, but you had said this in the beginning. You can also negotiate with your credit card, and you just said it just now, to reduce your balance. Here's, you cannot be spiritually free if you are financially bound. That's that's Tika, and says rewrite. You cannot be spiritually, rewrite. and somebody said that was joined us. Thank you, ladies. I'm Natifa, by the way. I have another meeting at 8, but she got exactly what she needed. Thank you so much. We love to hear that. We love to hear those testimonials. There's a few more. It says it begins with change in mindset and living below your means. Balance transfer is also something to look into for, well, we talked about that too. This was great, Allison. Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie and Annette, for this event. It was an important conversation. And it says, Stephanie, they are the mafia with the higher interest rates.
That Carol, I tell you, she's something else. And don't let me be late with a payment. Stephanie, that 15th. I'm like, Carol, I always pay you for.
Okay.
All right. So thank you all for joining us tonight for our weekly workshop Wednesdays. And next week, what do we have next week, Annette? I can't recall.
Next week is integrate your plate, El Salvador.
All right.
Pupusas.
Okay, so join us for every Wednesday. We do this at 7 p.m. and next week we have our Integrate Your Plate cooking show. We'll take you to El Salvador. So join us there. And we want to thank the illustrious Allison Watley for presenting tonight. We really appreciate you. We know you're very busy, and I appreciate you jumping in at the last minute to put this together for us. And Allison is the leader of the debt reduction team, and I'm sure she'll be back to present again. And we have joining us tonight some of the sisters from the savings team are here. They'll be presenting in June 16th, I believe. And so the debt reduction and the savings team will continue to work together. And again, we thank you all for joining us tonight, and we hope you learned something. I sure did. And so watch out for those predators and get that debt down.
Carol.
And get your own business.
Yes.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Allison.